Since the legendary victory of Tiber Septim over the barbarian natives in the Battle of Old Hroldan, Imperial and Nord scholarship has cast the people of the Reach as little more than savages, prone to irrational fits of violence, worshipping old heretical gods and fetishising beasts and nature spirits that any civilised person would best well avoid. In truth, these accounts are little more than victors' essays, a perspective narrowed by the Empire's constant strife with the ancient, proud people that lived in this land far before Tiber Septim walked the soil of Tamriel. In light of this, I hope to create a more complete, accurate and fair assessment of a group that has long suffered under the role of enemy, troublemakers, and them. Let us begin with the Forsworn, the so-called Madmen of the Reach. The Imperial Legion classifies them as little more than brigands, noting their constant raids and ambushes within the hold. But none of their military reports ask the question of why. If they were merely a group of bandits, surely they would be focused on acquiring gold and minimising deaths among their own. But the opposite is true in the Forsworn attacks. Large sums of coin are often left behind, and their fighters easily throw away their lives rather than risk capture by Imperial soldiers. It is this incongruity that led me to Markarth, the capital city of the Reach, in search of answers. There I met one of the native peoples, an old woman who preferred not to be named in my writings. She told me of her family's long history, how she believes they originally came from High Rock, home of the Bretons, which would explain the similar faces and stature to the two peoples. How the Nords came and took their lands, their gods, and their culture from them. When asked about the Forsworn, the old woman would say that they are the real men and women of the Reach, those who refuse to give in to the Nords, and those that still practice the ancient traditions that the rest of their people had abandoned in exchange for peace. In time, I was able to create trust with many more natives in my search that corroborated the old woman's story. By chance, one of them arranged a meeting between myself and what I thought was an elder member of his village. I was shocked to find that I was led to a camp filled with the animal skulls, severed heads, and still beating hearts that I could read about from the military reports back from the Imperial city. There I met Cortoran, a Forsworn, who seemed amused at the prospect of me writing down his story, which I quote in full below. You want to know who the Forsworn are? We are the people who must pillage our own land, burn our own ground. We are the scourge of the Nords, the axe that falls in the dark, the scream before the gods claim your soul. We are the true sons and daughters of the Reach. The spirits and hags have lived here from the beginning, and they are on our side. Go back and tell your empire that we will have our own kingdom again, and on that day, we will be the ones burying your dead in a land that is no longer yours. So as you can see, another excellent and informative book that you can find in the Elder Scrolls universe. And it just opens your eyes a little bit further to one of the less talked about factions in Skyrim, where the main story focuses on the civil war between the Empire and the Nords, orchestrated by the Thalmor. There's also another little fight for independence going on in Western Skyrim. And there's so many quests and stories that can be found in the Reach which add to this, such as the quest that allows you to retake Markarth as a Forsworn, and the legend of the Red Eagle. If you haven't played out those quests or you haven't done the reading on the background of those stories, I'd recommend you do so, they're really interesting. There's so many things that we're all looking forward to in the Elder Scrolls 6, and I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most is finding out what happens in all these stories. Because we don't really know when it's going to take place, but I would assume that the Elder Scrolls 6 would take place following the events of Skyrim. So we're going to find out who won the war between the Empire and the Stormcloaks, and we're also going to find out if the Forsworn managed to retake the Reach. They won't shove it in your face, but I'm assuming there'll be some quests and some books that'll be dotted about wherever this game takes place that'll tell us what happens in these events. When we all first played Skyrim, it was clear that the Forsworn weren't just mere bandits. They were a lot darker and a lot more feral. But what many of us didn't know is that they were actually just fighting to reclaim their own land again. And no matter how dark and primitive their culture may be, it is their land. And all of this is just another layer of depth and detail to the video game series that we all enjoy so much.